Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here, and it's time for our updated max level tier list. As you can see up here, I have every single champion, all of them completely start out, and all of them all the way level to level 30. So this tier list will be looking at the different champions when they are completely maxed out with their best relics, except we're not going to be looking at the epic relics since, for one, most of them are very niche and not overly that powerful, and then two, no one has those relics, so I feel like it's not really worth adding. Now for this tier list, we're just going to be focusing on the new champions and then all the champions that have been changed because of the recent relic nerfs. We're not going to be going through every single champion. We actually recently, less than 2 months ago, went through every single champion. So if you want to see a list of everyone, I'll put a link to that down below. In this video, we're just focusing on the 3 new champions and then the champions that have been changed from the recent relic nerfs. So if you take a look right here, this is the old tier list. So let's dive into the new champions and see how much this tier list shakes up. And honestly, I was genuinely surprised by the results after going through this. So up first, we have Kindred. Kindred previously was in the A tier. However, because of the recent changes to the Gatebreaker nerf, Kindred now ending up in the B tier. Now Kindred's best build was Gatebreaker paired with Guardian Angel. Kindred was able to do a great job just nuking the Nexus and could continually summon herself to keep nuking the Nexus every single time she got revived. However, they nerfed Gatebreaker, so now it's only a play effect, not a summon effect. So that really killed the build for Kindred. I was actually worried that Kindred was going to drop all the way down into the C tier, but I played with them for a bit and they actually are quite strong. If you just go for a Stalker's Blade build, you have ridiculous amounts of removal, and you can let all of your prey stack up to do a ton of Nexus damage. So still a solid champion, but they are moving down from that A tier. Next up then, we have Teemo. Now Teemo, he was a S rank champion. Unfortunately for him though, both Gatebreaker and Gale Force got nerfed. He was one of the champions that was able to best utilize both of these relics. I was really worried for Teemo, ended up playing him a bunch, and he's actually still an S rank champion. Not as crazy strong as he was before, but he is still ridiculously strong. If you want, you can pair Gatebreaker, Bounty Hunter's Renown, and Crown Guard Inheritance to still get 3 Nexus hits in the very first round, and allowing you to plant a massive amount of Puff Caps round 1, and then you still have a solid Teemo on the board that's buffed up because that Bounty Hunter's Renown to rush down the Nexus. Also, if you want, you can still go for the Gale Force build. It actually works out fine for Teemo. It is obviously less consistent than it was before, but if you want more of a high risk, high reward playstyle, that will be perfect for you. Next up then, we have Jax. Now Jax, very similar to Teemo, S rank champion, but unfortunately Gale Force got nerfed. Jax was one of the champions that really liked to use Gale Force, but testing him out with Gale Force and other relics, and he is still a S rank champion. So for Jax, he has a lot of scaling buffs, so he never really liked the Gale Force as much as some of the other champions such as Teemo or Diana, so him just switching out Gale Force for Crown Guard Inheritance still feels very, very strong, and you can use that to rush down the enemy Nexus quite quickly. So again, another champion that I thought might get kicked out of that S rank, but is still very solid and still deserves that rank. Alright, up next we have Diana. Previous rank was S tier. The recent changes that are going to be affecting her is the Gale Force nerf. She didn't really use Gatebreaker, but Gale Force was her best relic. But after playing with her and testing her out, she actually also stays at the S rank. And she even is still going to be using Gale Force. So Gale Force, the main drawback now is if you end up getting recalled, you're getting shuffled back in your deck. But with Diana, she really only needs 1 round to be able to end the game. So getting that second attack in with Gale Force is all she really needs, so she still doesn't really have much of a drawback. It's a little bit riskier just in case you get frostbitten or stunned or something like that, so you're not able to end the game that round. Then yes, you will be having a little bit more issues being able to play her again. But in general, testing her out with Gale Force, even the nerfed version, she's still very, very strong and definitely still a S tier champion. Next up then, we have Neela, one of our new champions. So for previous rank and changes, those aren't really applicable here. Playing with her once she is maxed out, very powerful. Part of that is because of the fact that she is a 2-drop, so you can play her round 1. A lot of different builds you can use with her. Card duplication, always strong. She ends up going in the A tier. Now I will admit most of that is being carried just by the fact that she is a 2-cost champion. If she was just a little bit more expensive, she probably would end up lower, but being able to play your champion round 1, especially once they're maxed out and have those 3 relics, really is a game changer, which is why she's up in the A tier. Next then we have Janna. So similar to Neela, both previous rank and changes don't really apply as she is a new champion. A lot of fun, all built around cost reduction, really strong removal and burn damage, as well as some decent scaling. However, if you're not able to play Janna in the first couple rounds, you're really gonna struggle. If you don't get your cost reduction going, you're going to have a very bad time. So she actually ends up in the B tier. Up next then, VOLIBEAR, I think most people's favorite for the new expansion. Similar to the last two, both previous ranks and changes don't really apply here. Very strong champion and has an amazing finisher both in VOLIBEAR himself and then the other Titanic units you can play. I actually leveled him first and I thought I was going to be able to level both the other ones faster than him, but I found out VOLIBEAR actually closes out games faster than either one of Janna or Neela just because of how strong his game finishing is. He actually ends up in the A tier. Next then for PYKE, wanted to test him out because of the Gatebreaker nerfs. So he was previously in the A rank, and like I said, Gatebreaker got nerfed, one of the relics you really want to use for him. However, it didn't really affect him that much, so he's still in the A tier. Now, I will say if you want to use Gatebreaker still, you probably want to throw a stat relic on him, but we were normally doing that before anyways. And then he has many ways to actually recall himself so you can play him again, getting that play effect for Gatebreaker. So using Gatebreaker still works perfectly fine, but if you also just want to switch to like Stalker's Blade instead, that also works. Next then we have Vi, very similar to PYKE. She was in the B tier, Gatebreaker, pretty much her best relic. You want to stack her up in hand and then play her and have her smash the Nexus, leveling up, and either ending the game outright or ending it when she attacks. And then again, similar to PYKE, she is still in the B tier. That one little damage that you're missing with the Gatebreaker nerf, not that much damage, or not that big of a impact. And while losing that summon effect is rough, those were more just when you got lucky and you got a whole bunch of extra copies to just completely nuke the Nexus. So while you can't do that anymore, she's still more than powerful to destroy the Nexus when she's played, or shortly thereafter. The nerf really didn't affect her too much. Next then we have LEBLANC. So S rank champion. She can utilize both Gatebreaker and Gale Force, but in my opinion, she's one of the most versatile champions in the game. A lot of different builds you can play with her, so she is still S tier. If you still want to use Gatebreaker or Gale Force, they do actually still work on her, although personally I would avoid Gale Force. Gatebreaker, you might just want to have one of them. I know before with LEBLANC, people would just like drop triple Gatebreaker and she would just nuke the entire game. Don't really want to do that anymore, and you won't get as much crazy damage from all of her clones triggering Gatebreaker as well. So if you still want to go for a strike build, go for Stalker's Blade generally, but really LEBLANC, she is so strong you can use a whole bunch of different relic setups and still absolutely dominate the game. She was the last champion that I really felt needed to get tested out. So let's go take a look at the standings for the new tier list. As you can see here, not too much changed. We did add in the new champions, and Kindred got kicked down a rank into the B tier. Honestly, I was very surprised. I thought a couple of the champions in the S tier were going to get kicked down, especially Teemo, but after playing with them all, the nerfs really didn't hit them that hard. Unfortunately, you can't do as many ridiculous things anymore with some of these champions, but they're still all incredibly strong, and most of them you can still use those same relics if you want. They'll just be slightly less consistent. So I'm genuinely surprised that more things didn't change. Poor Kindred did get kicked down. Again, if you want to see the full breakdown of every single champion, I'll link that tier list down below. I just made that not very long ago, so it's still relevant for all the champions that I didn't mention here. Also, I will be doing a complete update to our max relic build video, so the best relic builds for every single champion. We'll be working on that right after this tier list. So if you're interested in that, definitely like and subscribe, and I hope you all have a great day.